What's up, everybody? Lefty here. Today I have the one and only Joe Yiakas with me. Joe, thank you so much for your time, man. I love your venue, man. Like, I love just from the sportsplex to here, the way it feels like you escalate from each point. Like, you can come here and have something casual, or you can come here and have like a good time with your friends at the club here. So, how did you go from that to this? Like, how did that happen?
You do have some great questions. It was always just some real estate, and I've had a corporate job for 20 years. Took over for the sports complex, and as a individual, Kurt, that we were sitting outside and having a cigar and talking about we wanted to build something, and his VP for his for his construction company, Jimmy, and the three of us, next thing you know, are building a speakeasy private club, members only type thing. So we kind of have it locked down, private members, but my main business is obviously New England Premier Sportsplex. So it is a tough transition, but the point came up, and I said, what a great venue, the back of the sports complex, to build something like this. So Founding Fathers Executives Networking Group is where we're at right now, if that's what you're talking about. The,
Yes, yes,
the,
yeah.
the very rustic look and feel of the club.
I like it. I'm a huge fan of when you walk in and the setup of the room makes you feel the energy of what you should feel here. Like, it's not just when I came here the very first time with Chris's thing,
Yeah,
you walk in and you're just like, yo, I'm about to meet some like really good people who seem like they know what they're talking about. Like,
yeah,
this is awesome.
yeah.
And I think walking in here, you feel that from the very beginning. So you've done a great job of representing, I think, what I've read about what you're trying to do here with the club. Um, what if it's cool? We'll talk about a little bit about founding fathers
Hmm.
first, if that's fine. Now, you're getting this as real estate. You take over the sportsplex, and then you're talking with your buddy. You're having a cigar. You're like, it'd be awesome to do it. You come up with the idea. Kind of walk me through like the steps you took to really like drive it home, because some people will talk about things and not execute. What were the steps you took to make sure that this job got done and it became what it is now?
It's funny that you say that, because one of our founding fathers, a member, there's different levels, but the highest level is a founding father, is a roofer, Paul, who probably gave us, and there's certain lines, certain quotes that will stick with me for years, decades to come. He gave us the greatest compliment. He said, because we sat down with him, he said, there's a lot of people that have dreams. You guys made it happen. So I thought that kind of gave me shivers, as far as it's true. We were smoking a cigar off the back deck. It definitely didn't look like this. It was a beat up old sports complex, the back room where birthday parties and little kids running around, tearing up the place. And Kurt and Jimmy, part of C2MG, they're a high end construction company, builders, high end builders. And I said, these guys, if anyone can pull it off, they will help to pull it off. And I didn't want to do a one man operation. I didn't want to. I've got a thing about partnerships and 50-50. There's always one person says this and the other person says that. And there's potential for problems down the road. So I said it's going to be a three-way partnership, and I don't even mind if I'm only one third. And I said, let's get it. We planned for the whole year, 2022. There's a lot of issues and stuff about what you can do or can't do. And we put greed out the back door. We said, we're not going to sell cigars, we're not going to sell alcohol, we're not going to sell food. It's going to be a private members only club. It's going to be a mix of a business networking group and a country club feel. That's why we have the lockers, and you can get a locker, you can get a membership. You have to get a membership, you don't have to get a locker. We've got a lot of locked up humidors and stuff like that, and a place to just go. It's kind of, I wanted to create an environment that it feels like your living room. I mean, if you want to take some videos and post some video, whatever, I don't know how this podcast stuff works, but it's got the leather recliners, the leather couches, chairs, ottomans, TVs everywhere. It was a great concept, and you hit it right on the head. It's a dream, and we actually executed and made it happen. So all of 2022, planning for it around the conference table, not this one, but obviously at his office. And we got a lot of people involved, got a lot of different opinions. A lot of people were saying, oh, we'll sell this, we'll sell that. And we made the decision, it's not about the money. It's about bringing like-minded people together, entrepreneurs that love to help one another. And that's what it has become. It's a great sounding board. We get together once in a while for a social event. We get together once in a while. We have business speakers. And we also get together for initiation evenings. We had a great State of the Union meeting last night and initiated 4 new members.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
Thank you. We're up to 55. We're not in a rush. So we spent all of 22 planning, all of 2023 building out. And you know how building, it'll take 3 months, it'll take 6 months. It never takes 3 months or 6 months. It took an entire year. We had our grand opening February of 2024 and been slowly building, if you got to get sponsored by someone has to speak highly of you. If we need to sit around this conference table and have a conversation like this and get to meet people and kind of peel back the onion and see what's underneath and what's your mindset and so forth, we like to bring people that are striving to make themselves better, because that's what our goal is, to help one another become a better individual.
Right. So you're really focusing on making sure you can bring quality to the people that come here and not only join the cigar bar membership and get a locker, or just they're here regardless. They're going to meet someone here of value that can help them get further in whatever it is that they're trying to pursue, is kind of what I'm understanding.
So it's interesting that you said cigar bar. So, and people say, oh, I heard you got a club. I heard you got a cigar bar. What is amazing that I can basically say is there are people that are members that don't smoke cigars. There are people that are members that don't drink alcohol. They stop drinking. So it's a true testament that these people want to be around, even if there is a few people that light up a cigar. And there are people that don't like the smell of a cigar, but the value they get out of this is amazing. That's what brings people together. So whether we get together and watch a Patriots game or Bruins or Celtics or Red Sox, whatever it might be, we have a pig roast once a year. We have a Christmas party once a year. We bring spouses in. So it's not just, so I kind of cringe, and obviously no disrespect, but you mentioned cigar bar. It's not just a cigar bar. Although you'll see cigars and people smoking, and when you came to the event, there were people smoking cigars. And it's not just a social bar or a place to get drinks, and people have maybe a bottle in their locked up locker or something like that. I think it's become more than that, and I'm kind of proud about that.
Yeah. As you should be. Absolutely, yeah. When you have a certain vision and someone almost puts a certain label on it that doesn't fit what you're imagining, it hurts your feelings. Yeah, I get it. So I'm a fan that you corrected me, because I would want people to know that you're here regardless of cigar, alcohol, whatever. The quality of network you're meeting here is really what you're getting.
Yeah, it's interesting. We were at another event somewhere off-site, and one of the members brought me, I walked over and he was talking to someone, and he introduced me. He said, oh, this is Joe. He's the one that has the cigar place. And the correction wasn't the cigar place. It's, when he said, oh, that his place, he's the one that has the place. And I corrected him, not about the cigar mention, but I said, it's not my place. It's our place. So that's the other thing, is when you get a membership here, it's your home. I like to say it's your home to get away. Some spouses don't like the smell of cigars, or don't want having certain people over down in the basement. I don't care where you think that some people said, oh, I've got something like this in my basement. It's just not the same. You're not getting the vision of getting together with like-minded people and being able to talk about things and help one another. And, hey, I've got issues. I've got this going on. What do you suggest? So it's more than that. But I corrected him on, it's not my place. It's our place. And I want people to feel that when you get a membership, it's your place. It's your place as much as it is mine.
Right.
So
Right. I you I have been here now. This is my second time in this location here, and it's just I think what you're talking about from the social media that I've seen, from the conversations I've had with people who are members here, they definitely feel that. What
yeah,
you're trying to get across is definitely the feeling that they get.
yeah.
Now, when you're looking at members and you're kind of deciding, all right, if someone wants to be a member here, this is kind of the things that we find important if you're going to be a member here. What are those specific, like, what do you look for when it comes to a member here and
That's a great
putting them
question
in?
because it's a fine line of confidence versus arrogance. In the just a few people that we have not followed up because it wasn't the right vibe to extend a invitation to join, was they did most of the talking. I don't know whether it was anxiety or pressure, and they were just kind of rambling on. People do that. But I think the first thing that sticks out when you meet someone is if they can carry on a conversation and allow, I say it to my son, I say it to anyone that will listen, we've got two ears and one mouth, so you should try to proportionally listen more than you talk.
Yes.
It's real difficult when you're asking questions and I've got to elaborate. I'm sure you don't want just yes or no answers, but
No, no,
it's when we're
please.
talking to someone, if there's a balance and you feel it, you go with your gut instinct, and there's several of us that will meet someone. So someone obviously thinks highly of someone in order to bring them here. And they introduce and we talk to people, and you can tell within half hour, an hour, and most of our social events last several hours. And there are examples of certain individuals that just, you know, and it's unfortunate, but it is true. You have a few drinks and you become that very loud individual. That's not the environment we want to create here. We don't want someone dominating a conversation or dominating, just being loud in this place. It's not, it's about 2,000 square feet. So it's not huge, but we don't want one person sticking out. There are a lot of alpha dogs around here. Obviously, a lot of successful business owners, but they're the right amount of balance of knowing to listen as well as to talk. So I think that's the primary thing that we're looking for.
No.
And then, like I said, you get sponsored, just like a gun club or a country club or something. Someone's going to introduce you to go in and join that club.
Right.
We'll call it a club for the sake
yeah.
of arguing.
No, I mean, I think when you say there's alphas here, yes, I agree. I definitely got the vibe that night. Because I tried to talk to as many people. That's my thing is let's have a conversation and see how like real someone will be with me from the beginning, or are they gonna give me the persona that sells whatever they're selling?
Right.
So like that night watching others, because in my room I didn't really know many people, so I tried to just kind of watch back and see how the conversations were going amongst others, and everybody was pretty good at seeing like, all right, let me hear what this person has to do and how it relates to what I might be doing because maybe there's mutual benefit here. And I got that a lot. I felt that vibe a lot. So when you're saying they're the right level, I
Right.
experienced it. So I
Right.
get what you're saying in that manner.
Right.
Now, when you're having your meetings here, your club meetings, are there certain topics that you like to cover? In general for everyone or new people, like what is it that you guys like to talk about when everybody comes together at the club, and what are the type of topics that you cover, so others kind of understand what?
So I'm going to assume, which I shouldn't, you're talking about our business speaker series. We bring in guest speakers.
Okay.
One of them's out there, actually. Nick will be doing a presentation on financial planning. We had Rachel doing a presentation on the value, your personal value and so forth, and SIG, I forget the master SIG class or something like that, SIG master class or something,
Okay.
and I forget the drawing a blank right now. But a lot of guest speakers talking about different topics. So those are spaced out so that it can help business owners, entrepreneurs fine tune some of those things that they're looking to get knowledge for. That's our business speaker series. But then the social events are pretty much just getting, and you'll find people that play golf say, I do more business on a golf course than I do anywhere else, because you put yourself in a situation where you're with three other people and you can talk while you're enjoying something. Well, the good news is this is a lot more than three other people. When we have a social event here and you've got an attentive audience, if you mingle and work there, I mean, I told you, and I don't want to sound like I'm kissing ass or anything like that, because we have a thing where don't kiss anyone's ass. We're iron sharpens iron, and we dish it out as well as able to take it back. So you got to be able to handle the conversation. But you walked around, and I actually noticed, because you came up to me, had a few questions, and then you proceeded to. Some people have that skill set of asking questions and then elaborating some more and tell me more about this, and can you tell me about this? And I said, wow, this guy's really, like, he's really attentive. Like he really wants to end. He's picking like the fine tunes of everything, asking the right questions. I was impressed, and then you followed up and said, I'd love to do a podcast, and I think our schedules didn't coordinate for the longest time, and I said, and he's got one other thing that people don't have these days is follow-up. Because, I mean, I'll schedule stuff with people, and they just completely blow it off, which is amazing. But you were on top of it, and I want to commend you on that, is you kept following up. How about this date? What about this? What about in January? What about February? So it was amazing how you followed up on that. I said, I got to give this guy the time of day and just sit down and talk. I mean, I was impressed. So there's a whole slew of conversations that happen. We have, on certain days that we started a monthly, another topic, which is interesting, which I didn't even talk about, is on that wall is a series of books, motivational books, business building type books. I mean, I can rattle off. You could see the posters and how we hung
I
on
have
the wall.
some of them in my audiobooks. Yeah, yeah.
Great. Obviously, they're popular books.
Very
I
good,
want
yeah.
to sort of give a shout out to any one particular, and people are going to say, what about that one or this
Yes,
one?
yes.
But
Yes.
there's a whole array of great business, entrepreneurial type, motivational type, inspirational type books out there. And we started, I hate to use the word book club. Once again, I'm kind of.
I'm a nerd. You can use book club all you want in this conversation.
Literally, it's a business development group. You sign up. We did it last year. Obviously, last year was the first full year. We started in 24, but 2025 was the first full year. And we said, we've got to give more to our members. What else can we do? And someone said, what if we got together, limited to 12? There was such a demand that we let in 14, but since then we've tapered back, and we're down to, because there's 10 chairs in here, we're down to fine tuning, because you learn a lot the first year you do something. And we said, let's fine tune it down to 10 people. Let's cap it off. So all of last year, we did a monthly meeting. We signed NDAs, because what we say in this room stays in this room.
Sure,
So it's
yeah.
very important when people, I'll give a shout out to the first book that I think is one of the more relevant books on setting the culture. And it's Culture Code. And it talks about, first you have to feel safe in a particular environment, and you have to, sometimes a leader has to show vulnerability. So we open up and we share a lot of stuff that, once again, we signed NDAs, and we share a lot of stuff, personal level, business level. We give an opportunity for everyone. We go around the room and what are the things you learned from this book and so forth. We had a lot of learning moments. We started with, I think, 10 books over 12 months, and we realized it shouldn't be a book a month, because when you have 10 people that are successful entrepreneurs, they tend to want to, and we want to keep within 90 minutes. Obviously, many times it's gone to 2 hours, because there's some issues. There's some stuff that you don't just say, oh, time's up. Although you want, you know what I mean? Like you want to help the person. So it usually goes between 90 minutes to 120 minutes. And we learned a lot from the first year, but there was such a high demand that this recent January, almost in February, we kicked off Fearless 1.0 and 2.0. So we did the group that was last year. Most of them continued. And then the next batch of 10 people started another class. So
Nice. So they're the 2.0, then you bought. Okay.
correct,
Nice.
correct. Actually, the experienced one's a 2.0, and the
Okay,
new one's
gotcha.
a 1.0.
So like you're leveling
you're
up in a
starting,
sense. Okay, yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah.
starting. You're starting at like a college course. You're starting Fearless 1.0.
Nice.
And then the other ones are basically in 2.0. So it was the college type theme of social studies 101 and social studies 102 or 201 or whatever they tend to add a number to.
Right,
it.
right, yeah, yeah.
So that was one of the things. The other thing that actually impressed me that we just kicked it off, and it's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Sensitive to some people, is Bible study. We literally started bi-weekly get together, and Pastor Bruce joined us. He volunteered. People actually were like, "Oh, are you paying him?" And he had the best answer. Someone actually approached him and said, "Hey," and he said, "Are you kidding me? It's like 12 to 14 people." He goes, "I've got 12 hungry souls that just want to read the Bible and talk about things." And it's amazing how much that's taken off. And I'm actually proud. There's a lot of father-son combinations in here. Obviously, I'm proud of my son, and he stepped up, and he's in a lot of these. He's in both of those, actually. So, and we get a lot of that father-son type of, helping them develop into successful role models down the road. I mean, they are the legacy. You asked me one question that sticks in my mind that you asked me, well, what will be your legacy? And I said, he's standing right over there at the time that I first met you. And I believe you had him on your podcast. So
Yes.
it was
Yeah.
good to see that.
You have raised an amazing son.
Thank you.
Yeah, sitting down with him, we spoke for definitely over an hour just about random different topics, and he's when I meet people, there's a certain demeanor they carry that you can tell they're gonna crush it regardless of what your opinion is. And your son has that, like, I'm friendly, I'm nice, but internally I want to be the absolute fucking best at whatever I'm doing. But I will smile, I will shake your hand, I understand. But deep down, I'm motivated to
Right.
get to the best level. And it gives me hope when you say the whole father-son combinations, because I think a lot of people, when they look at just what's going on in the world, they get sad, not realizing, like, no, this next generation is a lot smarter than us, and they're learning how to do things better than us, and there's a lot of hope. So when you meet, kids like your son, and they handle themselves so well, it's a real testament to how hard you've worked to make sure your relationship is one that taught him the right values. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. I don't know what I did wrong, but sometimes you get lucky.
They
in life.
remember, don't worry, they can tell us.
Well, it's interesting. I refer to him as a 24-year-old going on 44. But I see the savage within the animal instincts. I mean, and the hardest thing is the animal instincts can be in a lot of people. And I say, if I told you to go through that brick wall, he would definitely go through it. To be good at your future, you need to be smart and say, is there a way we can go around it? Dig a hole, go over it. So it's a balance. Just like anything in life, you don't want to be too much hard-headed or too aggressive or something like that. You have to balance certain things in life. So, but he's definitely, like I said, 24 years old, going on 44. I don't know where I went wrong, and he's so,
No, I think you nailed it. He's well balanced in terms of good head on his shoulders.
I'm proud of him.
Yeah. Now I'm always curious because I like to listen to audiobooks. I run a lot, so I listen to a lot of audiobooks. When you said the Conduct Code, I believe that's the book you pointed out there. It's one that Culture Code. I'm sorry, Culture Code. Right, Culture Code. What about that book do you feel you were able to use right away after you read it, that you saw the difference that made you believe in what you were reading?
So it's first thing that right when you said I do a lot of audio listening, they made fun of me because the joke within the group is that I haven't read a book since I was in college. So at 58, that was a long time ago. So a few people, and they say you still haven't read a book because I do all the audios. We pass, part of it is to pass out a hard copy, but they're piling up, they're on the shelves within this Founding Fathers, and I love the audios. I think that's an efficient way of time, whether I'm driving or we did the marathon last year, so I did a lot of running and listened to a lot of it while running. So the culture code, I hinted upon it. It was the perfect book to go first because early on it shows that you've got to show to, and I do it with my staff at the Sportsplex, is it's good to show vulnerability. A lot of people don't get that. They want to put a wall, a facade
Sure.
that I'm tough and so forth. But you kind of want to open up and express some vulnerability and show people that, hey, there are some issues that we need to address. I need your help. And then when you also create an environment of safety that people aren't intimidated that you're going to throw them out or do something or yell at them, but yet you want to say, hey, we need to fix this. We need to come up with a solution. Here's the problem. How do we come up with a solution? That type of culture, when you do it the right way, that environment in any type of organization, I think is important. And it worked fantastic for that business development group that does the book club, that does that. It's like, a first time, if I tell you that there were men crying, watery eyed, because they opened up in the first meeting. A lot of these members, I said last night that I'm spoiled. I get to meet everyone and I get to know a lot of people. But when you come socially here and there, and I just became a member of certain clubs and you show up and you don't know everyone. So it's a little intimidating, right? You go to an event, you probably came in here and you say, wow, I'm just going to observe and you watch. But if you don't know a lot of people, you feel a little uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. So in order to create that culture of feeling comfortable, when you take smaller groups and you put them in a business development group and you open up, the bond that first Fearless 2.0 now, let's call it, is incredible. I mean, we went to Polana's and we had dinner. During the summer, we went up to someone's lake house and we climbed Mount Major. You do a lot of events that bring people together, and it's a beautiful thing. And you're not going to get everyone. We're up to 55 members, so you can't get everyone inside the small conference room. But like I said, every time we do an event, like last night, we had 20 to 30 members here, and we inducted or initiation ceremony for 4 members. I thought it was a great event. And the other thing that we started incorporating is we go around the room and everyone says, don't give it a 5-second intro. My name is Joe Yiakas. I'm from North Reading, and I run New England Premier Sportsplex. I don't want that 5 second. That literally didn't take more than 5 seconds. I want 20 to 30 seconds. Take a deep dive. Tell me about your family. Tell me about what's important, why you're here. So when you develop that type of environment, I think last night was fantastic. It really was. People got to hear from all the different people in the room, and a CPA, and you know what? Someone was saying, my CPA hasn't got back to me. I really don't like the way they're treating me, because not everyone is as professional. So now you get an opportunity that you now can network, and there's the networking part, and build relationships with a dentist, a CPA, whatever, a general contractor, plumbers, electricians, whatever it might be. There's so many different businesses that are in here.
Right.
So
Right.
that's one of the things. That's a long-winded. Like I said, I'm long-winded. You might have to shut me off after a while.
You're good.
But the culture code is building the right culture, the right environment. And like I said, that helped me. And there are a lot of things that I didn't realize that you know what? I've heard this 10 years ago, 20 years ago, working for this company and that company, and about feeling safe and the right culture and the right environment. But am I applying some of the things that they say in the book? Am I doing that at my staff meetings? Am I over dominating, or is it kind of start and have the same pace and recognize what we need to accomplish, what we need to get done? So culture is important.
Right. I've seen a few different businesses at this point that my parents have had and how they handled that. And then I've been fortunate enough to work with really good business people and kind of learn while working from them how their business functioned. And the one thing I believe most companies that do really well do is they understand how to build good culture that makes people feel like if I stayed here the rest of my life, it would be worth it. And when you're talking about guys being able to open up, because I think that's something that most men don't do or don't know how to do in a way where they don't feel like they're going to get judged for it. So you saying that that's the type of culture that you have here, where someone can come in on their first day of Fearless, 2.0 for the one coming from last year, or it's what do you where do you think that comes from when someone comes here for the first time and then is able to open, like, do you think they were looking for it and found it here, or is it something that you're able to express across where they feel safe enough to do it? Like, what gets someone to want to open up to that level here?
Yeah, so one of my mentors, and you may have heard it, the fish smells from the head down. So it starts from the top, leadership. One of the things that I pride myself on is creating a family type environment. Obviously, my son is my right hand man. We have a younger staff, and people need to hear stuff like, I'm proud of you. Hey, great job. You got to give them compliments when compliments are due, and then you got to be firm when mistakes are made. And I think, like, we joke around, I like to bust balls. I sometimes have some zingers that I throw out there, and they kind of both look at each other, all three. Everyone looks at each other like, oh, that was a good one. You good.
Nice.
And so I give it to them hard, but I've mentioned several times throughout the year, you're like a son to me. You know what I mean? Like, don't think just because, and Costa, my son, I bust his chops probably more than any of them. So they know, like, okay, that's the limit. If he's busting me at this, I shouldn't complain because he busts Costa. I think having my son here helps a lot because they see how tough I am on him. And I thought you were going down that road when you were saying about the next generation, the younger generation, because sometimes you don't see that, the toughness. I feel like we've gotten a little bit soft, or some individuals
I
have
agree.
gotten a little
I agree.
soft. And it's discerning that we've gotten that soft. So
And we've justified it. That's
yeah. Yeah, and I said I'm going to be tough, and they're going to see me. Like I said, I think one of the biggest success examples is my son being here and wanting to be, I like to refer to him as a sponge and absorb a lot of the things that I'm doing. And then when they see that, I think it's nice when I refer to them as my son, like your family, and you have to make them feel like family. And one of the things in Founding Fathers executives is we talk about the brotherhood, and they're my brothers. And we talk about, if anyone in the middle of the night you've got a situation, we all have each other's cell phones. Call me. I'll come get you. I'll come help whatever you need. And it was amazing when you do go around the room and you give everyone. It seems like every other person, every third person, had that same thing to say. Like, you're gonna love, to the new guys, you're gonna love the brotherhood in here. You're gonna love the camaraderie. You're gonna, reach out. I talk about one of the things in our initiation ceremony. I don't want to give away too much because it's secret, top secret initiation ceremony. But I talk about the shelves that we have. Obviously, the layout here. It's got one wall with shelves, the wall of knowledge. There's a lot of, I was going to throw away my encyclopedias from back in the days, which I don't think they even exist. I don't even know if
Yeah.
they look nice. They look nice on a shelf, and you see in a law firm, and you got all these law
Yes.
books and everything, and we read books, obviously, and I put those in there. But I talk about the knowledge on these shelves is nowhere as powerful as the knowledge you see around these faces as everyone stands in a circle for the initiation ceremony. I think wisdom, I think experience has a lot to do with learn from your elders, but at the same time, we're all brothers. We're all in the same. So it's kind of interesting where different ages, different people, we have anywhere from the 20s and 30s to a majority of 40s and 50s up there. I'm trying to think if there's any 60-year-olds. I don't think. I might be the old dog in the. No, we've got one, that I can think of. But for the most part, it's a variety of entrepreneurs, and I think you drive home the point that help one another. They're your brothers, when you become a member here. And same thing with my staff at the Sportsplex is your family. and you've got to do that. You got to, it's a little give and take. We do Red Sox games, we do holiday party or Christmas party, we do, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I include them and make them feel, I mean, you can't just say it. Saying it isn't going to get it done. You got to show it.
Right.
So,
Right. There's belief when they see it. When you're just saying it,
right.
so it makes complete sense.
Right.
When you are looking at your staff, in just kind of in the last year, I guess, just to kind of have a specific time. In the last year, what kind of growth have you seen in your staff that makes you really proud?
That's a great question. I'm spoiled with my son being as mature. I really think he's an exception. With the staff, the younger generation, like I said, and it's not them, I see it 80, 90% of the time where this phone, I put mine away, I put it on vibrate, this phone has captivated their attention. And it does for me too. I'm a victim of that also. I get on there, I might look at Facebook, Instagram, I might look at some different, you know what I mean? The technology is a beautiful thing. So technology has made us more efficient, and at the same time, it has made us less efficient. I get frustrated sometimes when I come in and everybody's on their phone doing something, and it's like we're running a sports complex. There's people coming through. I emphasize that people want to, hear their name. I try to teach that to my son. When you walk into a room, if you can say hello, hear their name, and then when you leave a room, shake their hands and say good night. People love to hear things like thank you or please. And I try to mentor the younger staff that I have because I'm privileged. It's definitely not an age discrimination. It's just the nature of the beast. It's a sports complex, but they're on the younger side, and they've definitely come a long way. They've taken on initiative. So it's our core values, and it started with, I'm not sure if you've heard of EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. EOS has a nice software. It helps. I was just winging it. I mean, 20 years in corporate America, I thought, sports complex, you just got to shake some hands and kiss some babies and you'll be fine. And let people say, yeah, go play on the field. But I did wing it until a few years ago, and I started EOS, and it was a beautiful thing because it talked about putting the right people in the right seats. It talked about tracking things on scorecards. It talked about having core values. It all starts with a vision and core values. And I said, wow. And we sat down and we spent hours thinking of our core values. And the first one is the easiest, the pursuit of excellence. A lot of companies can say the pursuit of excellence, but what are you doing about it? And then we went into individual initiative, and acute awareness is the second, and the third one. Acute awareness is making sure that you're aware of everything in your surroundings and being able to, do you walk around? It's a 40,000 square foot facility in a 60,000 square foot building. So there are other ancillary stuff going on.
Right.
Are you conscious of what's going on? Like, is there a fight breaking out in that corner? Or is there a ripped net over here, a safety concern over there? Is there empty bottles everywhere? That's acute awareness is recognize it, and the individual initiative is actually doing it. Like I said, there were times when I'd walk to go from the parking lot to here, and I'd see empty bottles, and I'd be like bending over to pick up empty bottles, and I would come in, and I'm like, oh, you guys are here, so I'm assuming this bottle just showed up, and I'm picking it up because no one else took the individual initiative to pick it up. Or is it a acute awareness? Is it a matter of you just walk down, or you're looking on your phone, or something like that? You gotta have those two middle ones. And then the fourth one kind of brings it full circle. The family aspect is work hard, play hard, or work hard, play hard, meaning we have fun, and at the same time, we got to work hard. So
Right.
there's got to be a balance. Like I said, we have many events that we do throughout the year that kind of makes them appreciate, hopefully, that, hey, we are family, and we get together and we do stuff together and we have fun. I mean, it is a sports complex, so you're going to have a little bit of fun working here too. So it all came together with those four core values.
Right. So you're really, from what I'm understanding, the EOS, is that what it
Yes.
was? So the EOS system helped you create something easier to follow in terms of how to track your business and expand on the things that you needed to take care of to improve it. And what you saw was, as even though you're working with young kids, creating these values for them through learning about the system has given you a way to get them to be more independent and pick up on things that need to be done, that they're not just walking by on their phone. They understand why they're doing it and how it's incorporated into the system of what you guys are here. Now, when you were thinking about and I might be messing up how what it is, but independent initiative, I think you said, in terms of them taking individual initiative.
Yep. Like
that-
someone taking the initiative to do
right,
something.
right.
Because something can be broken, but are you just turning the other cheek, walking away, and hopefully no one will see? But are you actually going and saying, I got to fix this, I got to do this? That's individual initiative.
Right. When you're thinking about including that in your core values, when you look at how you grew up, what made you, like, do you have certain instances when you were growing up where you weren't necessarily going to do the right thing, and then someone said something to you in terms of how important it was to do it a certain way, and that stuck with you, and that's why you included it in your values? Or what exactly brought the two together for this, like having that there?
It's interesting that you bring up my past because I look back and reflect, and my father, if you looked up in Webster's dictionary, workaholic, he really did work a lot. And I grew up in a sub shop in Lynn, in a sub shop environment, and I think there's a lot to be said about throwing someone into the deep end to learn how to swim. And I remember, I, I don't know the specific year, but I remember the experience of my father and mother saying that they're going to Greece and you're going to run the sub shop. And I don't know if I was in high school or because in college I worked less, but it was a summer. And so it was somewhere between the end of my high school, what I mean, you're still 16, 17, or you're in college. But I was amazed that they entrusted me to, here you go. This is that you've worked here since my head was over the counter. There used to be a joke, the counter was up to here, and I'd be like, oh, I want to work here, I want to work here. It's funny, I've seen that from my kids. I've got a younger daughter that she jokes around, and she's 10 years old, and I said, when your head's over the counter, and she's like, it's over the counter, and I'm like, all right, we'll talk about that. It was a joke amongst the family, but he literally gave me, it's not really individual initiative until he actually pushed me into the deep end. And you better take the individual initiative to swim or you're going to sink. But I grew up in that environment for years prior to that. And he obviously saw that I had the potential to run. Here's where you order the meat. Here's where you order all the ancillary stuff. And here's do the payroll, do the employees. And it was interesting. I do remember going to college. I would just work at a minimum one day a weekend. So it kind of, I had to commit. I had to make a commitment and have that ability to run a sub shop, to lock up at night, to make sure. And that has a bit of a discipline of knowing that, okay, I locked that door, I shut the grill off, the vents off, the this. So there's a checklist of, it builds your mind around that. These are the things I have to do. And I don't think, I know I've pushed my son into the deep end a few times. And we joked around within the last month of, he didn't even have his license yet, but I said, I got to start letting him learn how to drive. And obviously we have big parking lots here, and we were doing some work outside, cleaning up some shrubs. And I would once in a while give him, okay, drive, and I'll be in the passenger seat and put the brakes on. A big parking lot, no problem. And we were working, and I threw him the keys, and I said, all right, go get the truck and bring it around. And he's like, that was probably one of the most exciting moments. I go, well, you're going to prove that and he's like, are you coming with me? And I'm like, why do you need me? I mean, Do I have another set of pedals on the passenger side? Just go get it. You know how to drive. And he didn't have his license yet, but from one side of the building to the other side, it was an exciting moment for him. And he actually laughed around. He goes, I was really excited then. I go, I know you were really excited. But those are the little things that kind of give you that initiative to stop becoming your own boss. Because at the end of the day, you got to be your own boss. And you got to have an awareness of your surroundings. And we talk about that. Like I said, the second one and the third one are the most important. Individual initiative and acute awareness are the most two core values. And the other ones are just kind of the buns on the burger.
Sure.
Pursuit of excellence and work hard, play hard.
Right.
So
Where would you say acute awareness came from? Was there a certain moment where you missed something, or someone said something to you that made you make that a point? Like, how did that come up?
So we've all heard the analogy of you got to touch the stove and burn your hand. If you do enough of being your own boss, of taking the initiative, you're going to burn your hand a few times. You're going to learn from
Absolutely.
mistakes. So acute awareness is you learn at that, hold on, it's as simple as if I were to use the analogy of crossing the street. Acute awareness means you got to look both sides. When you're making business decisions, you've got to have some acute awareness. You've got to think through, and that's part of the spending enough time with my son or with anyone from the staff. It's like, all right, let's think this through. What are the consequences? If you do this, think about your actions, and for every action, there's a consequence.
Sure.
So think about your actions. Let's follow through. I talk about that playing chess. I mean, you've got to be several moves ahead of your opponent. Chess is a lost skill set. I mean, I taught my son how to play chess, and it was amazing. We brought a couple of chess games to have in here, and just anyone that wants to play. But it amazed me how many people just don't know how to play chess, and I'm like, and I used the analogy of some people play checkers and some people play chess.
Yes.
In order to be successful, you need to be good at chess, and that's an analogy of life. You could be. And not that you have to own your own company, but you've got to have that ability. If you're going to be successful, of whether you want to play checkers and just do X, Y, Z that someone told you what to do, maybe as an employee, or do you want to be an entrepreneur and play checkers where you have to be several steps ahead of the game in order to be successful?
Right. The forward-thinking individual usually can see the problem coming and not be caught off guard as much as the person who's playing checkers and one step at a time. Hopefully I follow that. Do you think what do you think makes people aware that they need to start thinking like that? At what point, or what has to happen for you to be like, oh, I should probably start thinking like multiple steps ahead of what I'm trying to do here to make sure that I don't get caught off? Like, what do you see will make someone start thinking?
There's a lot of characteristics that that you either develop over time. One of them is a little bit of a risk taker. Because in order to think about yourself to do podcast. You had to take a risk, didn't you? You had to think about, buy some equipment. You've got some nice equipment here. You had to go out there and say, okay, I've got to go up to strangers and ask them. And sometimes asking is the hardest thing to do. I mean, I learned that in sales. I started in sales, and I think that was one of the things that you've got to actually be able to read people or to get to know people. And like I said, that's a good skill set that I'm seeing from you. And this is technically the second time that we've actually face-to-face, right?
Right,
We've texted back and forth trying to coordinate our schedules, but I was like impressed. And that means a lot when you do and keep doing that, follow through the little things that make your character who you are. Basically, those are the ingredients that go into the cake. And everyone's got different ingredients. We're all created differently, but you've got to be able to distinguish between good characteristics or not so good
Sure,
characteristics.
yeah.
And risk taking, I think, is one of the good characteristics. And when you take some risks, you touch the stove, you burn your hand a little bit, but that's all right because you know not to do it that way, and you might want to try a different way the next time. I think there are people that are not risk adverse, and then they basically take the safe road, and that's fine. I mean, it's a wonderful world, and we need different types of people. But it defines you of who you, and when you're at the fork in the road, you got to take a left or a right, and one's going to bring you down here, and one's going to bring you over there, and only experience and time. I mean, I look back, and I've made a lot of dumb mistakes. 58 years old, and I look back, and I don't have any complaints. Even the mistakes, I don't complain because you learn from them. You
Right.
know?
Right. There's something to be said about eating enough shit to where you start to realize, like, oh, I can play this game a lot better if maybe I just didn't do these things again, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and doing it for yourself as an entrepreneur or having your own business, I think there's a certain level of freedom that comes with having, once you get to the point where it's like a stable business. I think when you're running it and it's not fully there yet, there's a lot of stress of like getting the money to the point where you're in, you're making money. But when you say there's there's that risk you have to take, when you say that, I'm always kind of like, what was your first risk? What do you remember being the first thing that made you super uncomfortable? And then after you did it, you felt like it was very rewarding.
So I think work ethic is probably the foundation of a lot of successful stories. I can't think of any, and I'm sure they might exist out there. They might have stumbled across wealth, but I can't think of many successful people that didn't work hard to get to that point.
Agreed. Yeah.
The thing that I think catapulted me into taking a little risk, my father had a sub shop. He had some real estate. So I had that. I actually, in my mind, said all the people that said, "Oh, you're lucky, Joe. You've got, and I wouldn't say a silver spoon in your mouth, but you got this. You could work. You can take over the sub shop. You got your father. He's got real estate." And that inspired me to some degree, and I'm glad my son hasn't gone down that road. Maybe he will, I don't know. But it made me want to go do my own thing. So here I was, a little bit about my background, a Bachelor of Science from Tufts University in Mechanical Engineering. I went on and got my MBA from Northeastern University. So I'd say a slightly above average educational background. But yet I was out there looking for this fantasy job, someone to hire me, because I didn't want to fall back on working at the sub shop or just doing real estate. And I got an opportunity. Someone said, "Oh, there's someone from MetLife that they're interviewing." And I went in and I said, "I'm going to keep an open mind." But the last thing a Tufts graduate with an engineering background and a Northeastern MBA wants to do is going into insurance sales. Think about that for a second.
I love sales, but yes, that is
Sales is a beautiful thing.
Oh, everybody should do
I
it.
taught that to my son, and he went and did a couple of years of sales and so forth. And I think you want to swing those doors closed.
Yeah, is it okay if I just shut them?
Yes,
Is that
shut
fine?
those off. So it actually amazed me. I think if you talk about taking risk, that was one of the risky moves. I said, I'm going to do this. And I was that little savage that I say my son has in him wasn't me. Like I was going to work late nights and the stuff to visit clients. I mean, I remember being at many clients' houses till 10, 11 o'clock at night because they were just so pleasant. They were like, "Oh, stay for some coffee. You want this, you want that." When you're in insurance sales, and then I started getting into financial planning and financial services and so forth. And I said, it's almost like I fell in. I jumped into the deep end because I couldn't not succeed. I wanted to prove that I did it on my own.
Right.
And that was a great stepping stone. I mean, to be able to make, some of the conferences, the top salespeople, the first year, the second year, there was some recognition dinners, and I invited my mother and my father, and they're like, "Oh, are you're making money? I mean, you're getting these awards and everything like that." And I also at the same time would help my mother and my father with some of their taxes and some of their financial stuff. Obviously,
Yeah,
as a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
financial planner, and it was kind of one of those moments that I needed to gloat. And I said, "Would you believe that I'm making more money than you're actually making? And like, would that be a bad thing? Like, I don't want to. I'm not rubbing it in or
No,
anything
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
like after my third year, I was very comfortable with what I was making, and
Sure.
it was comparable to what he was making. And he always said, "I want you to go off. I don't want you to." I'm like, "Oh, there are times that I, as a young kid, I'll run the sub shop or I'll do the real." He said, "No, go get an education. You could do better than this, working over a grill or a fry later or anything like that." So I was determined to prove others and to do what my father and mother wanted me to do, is go on and become. But it was a big leap of faith. You've got all these degrees, but yet you're going to go into sales. I said, you know what? If I help people and you can make some good money on this, a good opportunity. It's a win-win situation. It ended up going down that road, and I got a few promotions. And like I said, 20 years with MetLife was a great chapter, or a few chapters, or whatever you want to call it, of my life. And I learned a lot during that.
I'm a big fan of that. I'm currently looking to get licensed as an insurance agent,
Very
just for
nice.
the sake of understanding it. I'm not really trying to sell as much as I want to make sure
Yeah.
I can maximize everything I'm getting because I just got life insurance. I understand how legacy is built through all these
Yeah.
different systems. So, yeah, when you say 10 years of doing that, I could only imagine what you've learned and how
20.
to the 20
20
years.
years.
So,
Not 20 years of it being in sales, because it started where the first 2, 3 years were sales, and then I got promoted to the regional office
okay.
to help others in the region develop there, and then I was a sales manager for a while. So it was different positions,
Sure.
but all within MetLife for
Yeah.
20 years. Yeah,
Yeah, I wish more people got to understand that younger,
yeah.
at how much of an advantage you are if you start these things so much younger. What was, because I'm curious now, since you said, I really do love sales. That's what I did for a while. Um, what was your first sale like in MetLife? Like, do you remember who you talked to? You don't have to name names or anything like that, but just the overall experience and the nerves of like sitting down and making your first pitch. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it's interesting that you, like I said, it's great at asking questions. I look back and I hear people that are also get into sales, and I'm sure you're going to at some point come across that. One of the most important things that happened to me when I started with MetLife, and people either love it or hate it, but here's my mindset, is who are you going to go talk to? The last thing I wanted to do is be cold calling. So there's a lot of, oh, here's a pile of leads, call these people. So you hear sometimes reference to call your friends and family, and some people get turned off a lot. But I think my mentor, my manager at the time, hit it right on the head, and he inspired me. We still talk once in a while, and he was an important aspect of getting my career off, starting and doing well the first few years to get my first promotion, and so forth and so on. But friends and family. I mean, I started with the people that I love, and he said, "You're in the financial services industry. You can set people up with life insurance. You could set them up with, they did mutual funds and IRAs, and think about the classes that you take. And when you're getting licensed in life insurance, life accident and health, in Series 6 or 63, there's a lot of different ways, and I went and got licensed in all of them. But you learn a lot, and you say, why wouldn't I help the people that I love to make sure they're putting money aside for retirement, to make sure that they're properly covered in case they pass away. It was a powerful moment and a powerful few years, and that's why I think I did well. And I can honestly, for a while they had me, and that's probably one of the reasons why I got promoted, and they had me speaking in front of groups and talking to the newer reps, is those are the people you should help, because there's a trust aspect to it where you're telling them. And I would joke around that if I had $1 for every time that someone asked me, well, what did you do I wouldn't have to sell any kind of anything, right? It was that. If you think about it, it's that easy. If people trust you and they respect you and your background, your education, and there's another quote. People don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Right.
That's a powerful quote that inspired me early in my career. So you don't want to come across as bragging like, and I hope I didn't come across like that. I got a tough undergraduate, mechanical engineering and an MBA. People don't care.
I appreciate everything you've done to get to this point. So,
They don't care, and you don't unless you ask the question. Is you don't need to talk about that. They want to know that you care. They don't care what you know until they know that you care. And so when you're out there expressing that you should really address these concerns, this, and this, here are your holes in your plan and your future potentially. Let's address them. And then next thing you know, in like I said, whether my brother-in-law, whether it be my parents, whether it be my best friends, they all started, okay, well, what did you do? Well, I started off with this policy, but you should diversify. You should also do this. And next thing you know, and I specifically didn't want to, get now I say $1 million, and it's not as much as I didn't go in and say, you need a $1 million policy. Now people can actually go out and not even blink an eye at $1 million policy. But back then it was like baby steps. Well, let's start with 250,000, and then we're going to do a little bit. Every person was different. They had different needs depending on their mortgage or how many kids and so forth. But it was not trying to oversell them. And my best clients were the ones that, I only have $25 a month to put aside or $50 a month. I go, we're going to start with that. And then next year when I come back, we're going to do like an extra. We're going to bump it up to $50 or $100 a month, and 150 and 200. Those were probably the most solid clients because you're taking baby steps and they see the progress that you're making with them versus someone that says, $500, what do you got to do? And they could be here today, gone tomorrow. Those are the ones that sometimes didn't stick.
Right. Yeah. There's something amazing in a feeling of being able to sell someone and then seeing them really feeling that they enjoy the product that you sold them. So when you're talking about life insurance, or insurance in general, it's very satisfying to watch my best friend as he's selling this, to see how excited he gets to be like, yo, we just went over their financials and now we know exactly what they need to get in terms of for their kids and for this and for that. And there's almost people don't think about this stuff and they don't know where to go for it most of the time. They just hopefully get the right thing that they find online.
Right.
So when they get someone who cares and gives them the policy that they need, and then they get it right for them when those moments come up, you see how much appreciation the person had for that moment of you doing it right from the 25 to 50 to 70, and then the moment comes where they use it. So for yourself, when you were transitioning from insurance to then going into working for yourself, what was that feeling like? Were you already at a place where the financials, because a lot of people when they change careers or work for themselves, they always kind of look at how much money will I make and how will it affect my life moving forward as I'm doing this? Was there a smooth transition? Were there some hiccups in terms of when you made it, you were nervous and you were like, I don't know how this is going to play out? How did that work for you?
I'd like to say that I'm fortunate. I feel like life has been good to me. Like I said, I've had a 20-year successful career at MetLife. It went through 1994 to 2014. The first building that I bought, and if you go back, once again, every chapter in your book, it starts with the first chapter. It serves a purpose. Awareness, acute awareness, is seeing my father come to this country as an immigrant and be able to work hard, workaholic, that, like I said, work multiple jobs, the shoe factory, the clam box, and he saw the opportunity to buy his own building and start his own sub shop and then buy his next building and then buy his next building. So we were fortunate to have the foundation of my father going out there and working hard and putting money aside. I mean, I didn't have to teach him anything in regards to putting money aside. It came natural to him. Working came natural to him, and I learned a lot about work ethic from him. So when I got the opportunity in 2009, keep in mind 2014 I left MetLife. 2009, I bought with a couple other individuals a building. So I had the opportunity. It was a commercial building, unlike the residential buildings that my father was doing. To me, residential is a lot of work. Commercial is just a different animal, and people will ask me, which ones do you like better? I tend to lean towards commercial. So I had an opportunity to buy a commercial building in 2009. I bought my second commercial building in 2010. It got a little bit overwhelming. So in 2014, after 20 years, a healthy pension and a healthy 401k, which helps a young age still, like I mentioned, I was 47. And obviously way too young to retire. I think I'll be working till they put me 6 feet under. I don't know. I just love what I do. It's
Right.
not really that hard, especially when you have a great son that does a lot of the heavy lifting, so to speak. So it was an easy transition for me. I did what I preached. I put money aside. I saved up some money. I had the opportunity to buy a commercial building. It worked out well. The cash flow was good. I was good with numbers, my MBA, financial, whatever it was. I mean, I think the moons and the stars sometimes align if you do the right things in life. And I got a chance to buy a commercial building, and then I got a chance to buy another commercial building. There's bumps in the road and everything like that. But 2014, I was able to walk away and say I could focus in on being a landlord and make it and put more attention into the landlord part of it. 2018, one of my tenants wasn't paying the rent, so oh boy, someone pushed me into the deep end again. So let me practice my swimming skills. 2018, I took over for New England Premier Sportsplex. It wasn't named that at the time. We renamed it to New England Premier Sportsplex. And I did that before EOS, so I was winging it for a few years. But the growth was there because there were little skill sets that I learned throughout my life that I said, I've got to grow on this. And we started growing. COVID happened, and knock on wood, it wasn't. I don't know if there should. Thank goodness it wasn't in the middle of the winter. It was March 13th. I remember like yesterday, and it was the back end of when our busy season for indoor sports. So we didn't get a big kick in the gut, punch in the gut. I could say kick in the balls, but that would, it was a wake up, but it wasn't as severe as, unfortunately, for some other industries. And we bounced back even stronger the next fall because everybody was with the face masks wanting to get out, get their kids out of the house and do stuff. So it really wasn't a big, like I said, a big negative, and it just kept growing. And then it was after that I stumbled across EOS, and I said, time to bring it to the next level. Once again, the moons and the stars aligned. My son came on board, and he started doing things. I liked mowing the lawn, the big lawn, patch of lawn. It was easy. It was a chance to smoke a cigar, have my iced coffee, and mow the lawn. And he took that away from me. He loved it too because he loved getting on that sit-down lawn mower. I loved plowing and salting in snowstorms as long as they weren't 2 feet like the other one. But he said, "Oh, I want to plow. It's fun." I was like, "Oh boy, he is taking but he's doing a lot of the work. I don't have to, it's all fun and games until you have to do it at 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning or something like that, 6 o'clock in the morning." So he definitely took on the challenge. So it was so when you ask about transition, that's the long-winded answer on how it seems to just keep going well. The transition is smooth. It's never perfect, but you could either talk about the negative stuff and be down and out on, and I like to focus on the positive stuff. And
Same.
Where's the solution? Let's talk about solutions. Let's talk about the positive. Let's talk about growth. And I think you got to live in that side of the pool, so to speak, instead of, worrying about drowning. Because just like a golf game, if you're thinking you're going to go in the water, the probability just increased that you're going to hit the ball in the water. Yeah. That's what they taught me early on when I used to go in the water a lot more often. But it's true. It's a mindset.
Right. It's what you focus on is more than likely what you're going to end up getting. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Now, you've mentioned your dad a few times, so I'm always curious. I grew up in the restaurant industry as well. Towards the end, I didn't have the best relationship with my dad, but I remember a lot of the restaurant stuff when I was younger and some of the great moments that we had. For yourself, is there a certain moment that you like to reflect on from that era of like you and your dad just having like a good laugh or similar to what I assume you and Costa have here? Like, is there one memory that you really enjoy or you think about the most?
So it was a different environment, I think, and I'm sure Gus is gonna pick out things that I do that he's gonna say I didn't appreciate that, and he's gonna do things a little bit differently. Everyone's gonna tweak it to
Sure.
fit their own. My father was all about work. Like I said, it was there was no going out for a round of golf or going to the Red Sox game or going there was just it was just work. But he set the foundation for my work ethic. And I remember examples. If you're looking for examples, the one thing I remember is when you're open till 11 o'clock, and you're a young kid and you want to go out to the club because all your buddies say, just when you finish when you finish closing, just come to the club, right? It's down the street or come into Boston or anything like that. So you'd always want to, no one's really coming in to grab a sandwich at 11:15. I'll shut down 10:30. I'll shut the grills down. I'll stop mopping the floor and maybe I'll get out a
Out the
little early
door. Yeah.
until you get caught, trying to take those shortcuts. So one lesson that I learned from my father is you got to be careful because that customer that's going into work, the graveyard shift at the GE, we were down the street in Lynn at the GE, and they come in and the door's locked at 5 of 11. They're not going to come back. You're not reliable. And he had that, like I said, you touch the stove, you get in trouble. Old school, you get yelled at, and you think, and you're like, all right, I guess, yeah, you just got a point there. You can't take shortcuts on certain things. And that was one of the things that I remember learning from my father
Right.
about the work ethic and make sure you're there. Another example, and this one was a big one, and I say it once again to anyone willing to listen, is going into the room. I think I might have said it earlier, but that was an example of my father. A HEPA, which is a Greek organization. I remember back then, young kid, once again, the high school and the college there, I kind of intertwined because I know I had stuff to do, classes, studying, this and that, but I became a member of the HEPA. And I showed up in an event, and you're a young kid, and you see now all the time with kids, and I saw it with my son, I see it with my staff sometimes, and they come in and they're like, "What's up?" Like gosh, it wasn't "What's up" back then.
Yeah.
I think the Super Bowl commercial with Budweiser, "What's up," came out. But you just come in and you're like, "How you doing? How you doing?" And the next day, my father sat me down. He goes, "You walk into that room, you give your hand and you shake people's hand and you say hi." And you say their names if you know their names. If you don't, that's okay. But you're giving your hand and you're shaking their hands. And I was like, what a ass. I mean, what's wrong with like I just come in and I say hi. If they want to shake my hands, they can shake. No, you're the one that entered the room. You should say hi and you should go up, and people will respect that. And it stuck with me. And sometimes I see it with this younger generation. Like there were people that come to whether it be founding fathers or sportsplex or anywhere, a church event or anything like that, and they come up to me, young individuals, 20 years old, 21, whatever, teenagers, and they're like, "Hey, Mr. Yiakas, how you doing?" Or they reach their hands out, and that sticks with me. And I'm like, I go up to their father and I say, "You know what? Your son impressed me today," and it's
Nice.
kind of like I really like that. And he's got one step up on a lot of people in life because he took the time to go reach his hand out and shake it. I think there's a lot to be said on that. First impression is huge, and a lot of things. So that was a big lesson that I learned from my father.
Right. I agree. It's also something to where to introduce yourself to someone. A lot of us, I don't know about you, but as you get older, sometimes you go somewhere and you see someone you know and you're like, maybe I don't want to say hello today, And it's gotten to the point where I think doing that now, it shows that you really want to be a part of that moment. Just walk into the room and do that. So,
Yeah.
and it's the way you said it. I never even really thought about it. It's like you're entering the room.
Yeah.
They don't need to.
Right.
You need to let people. So that's
Right.
a very nice way of saying it. Now, when you have those moments where I guess we'll kind of wrap up here, and then this is the question I like to finish with here is let's say you had to start all over again. You forget everything you've learned up until this point, and oh, let me say it this way: you have one lesson you get to keep, and forget all the other lessons you've learned up until this point, and the clock is rewound back to the very beginning, where you will start to build this future for yourself again. What is the one lesson you're taking with you to get back to this point or surpass it in your mind? What would that lesson be?
I think what I said earlier, work ethic. I think if you have the right work ethic, you can build anything that you want. Nothing comes, well, like I said, there's examples of people that scratch ticket or fell upon something, but for 90+% of people, they either have it or they don't. And unfortunately, there are lazy people out there, and that might, and there are negative people out there that will point and play the victim card. But there are the hardworking people, and like I said, there are people that can dig themselves out of any hole with the right work ethic. And that's the one thing I think I would get out of this.
Right. That makes sense from everything you've said in terms of how you've gotten here. Now, before I let you go, just because we didn't talk about it too much, and I want to make sure we get it on video at the Sportsplex, different sports that you guys do. What do you guys specialize in? Like, what type of activities can they expect when they come here, or they can sign up for?
So we usually anything on a turf field. It's a 100 by 200 foot turf field. So there's a lot of organizations that come to us early in the season, like September, and they book the field every Tuesdays and Thursdays, or every Saturday. I need 3 hours, 5 hours, whatever. The different organizations, different things. But the ones that make more sense, because we also have batting cages, is baseball and softball. So baseball and softball is our 1-2 pitch, no pun intended. But after that, there's soccer leagues, there's lacrosse, there's field hockey, and then I've seen everything under the sun. I mean, we've had rugby, we've had indoor football, flag football is popular also. Pretty much anything that's on a turf field, that is the golden goose, because there's a lot of places that have batting cages, but they don't have the field. So when you can have little leagues that come here, or club teams that can do some hitting for an hour and then get on the field and do some defensive stuff, that's popular. There are soccer players, teams that want to have a good full workout, and that 100 feet by 200 feet is a good size field. That's a limited where you can get the batting cages in the field. There are places that have fields, and there are places that have batting cages, but it's very limited on to have the field and the batting cages. So, but anything on a turf field works, because if you have a big enough program, you come in early enough, September, and you book it, and that's what we do. And like I said, we're like a ski resort, super busy in the wintertime, kind of dead in the summertime. So we do discounted hours in the summer also.
Okay, nice. So you do a wide variety for everything and anything on a turf field.
Correct.
And if you love baseball, softball, we got the cages and we got the field, which is a great combination because you don't see that very often in a lot of the clubs. Nice. Well, Joe, this has been a genuine pleasure. I just want to tell you thank you for your time. Thank you for looking at me constantly texting you as a good follow-up versus getting annoyed. I appreciate that.
It's good work ethic. You're on top of it, and I like that.
Thank
Like I
you,
said,
thank you.
I like it a lot.
Genuine pleasure, man.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving me your time today.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody, that's it. Joe Yiakas.
Yep.
I'll put all the links to the Sportsplex, to Founding Fathers, and yeah, have a good one, everybody. Peace.